to Make Room with MJ. Today, my special guest is MsNicky, the Jane of all trades, master of life. She is a podcaster, C2C, commit to change. She is a motivational speaker. She is a life fit biz strategist. She is a nutritionist. She also is a fitness trainer, as she herself is a bodybuilder, as well as a mental health fitness coach, bringing awareness, solution, and support in mental health. She is a booty yoga instructor, esthetician training, sculpting full body makeovers, previously an owner of a dance, acting, singing school in New Jersey. And she herself is a dancer, singer, actress, not only just an actress, but a SAG actress. She also served in the military. Thank you so much for serving. And with all of this, she is a full-time mom. So MsNicky, thank you so much for taking the time to spend this time with me. I mean, just go ahead and straighten up your crown there because you are simply amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the accolades. That sounds really nice. And listen, I like my crown on the tilt. Hello,
Okay.
That's style.
Wear it any way you want, girl. I love it. I love it. So, you have such an amazing background. I just want to know, what was it like when you were a little girl? When did you realize that you were this brilliant, passionate person that you were born to be?
Wow. Probably from very, very young. I mean, I can't remember. Well, no, I can remember that I was always kind of the person that my mom was like, do this, do that. That's back when I went by Nicole.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. But no, she was just always like, I just always liked to perform. I love dancing from very, very young. The music just moved me.
Yeah.
And I guess it's in my genes because my grandfather and my mother were dancers,
Okay.
and my mother sang.
Nice.
So I guess it was just like ingrained in me. I'm not sure, but it was just something that I always loved to do. And I was intuitive. I was inquisitive. I was always the one going against the grain because my dad was very strict.
Sure.
And I was the baby, so I was the rebel.
Oh.
And I just always like trying new things and creating. I was the person that went around with the tape recorder, recording everything. I was making little shows back then.
Wow.
With my tape recorder. And then when video cameras came out, and man, that just makes me feel so old. When cameras came out, I was doing like bloopers and things like that way before like there was a blooper show. Like I could have been like a YouTube mogul back then because of all the videos that I used to make. Wow. I created movies with my Barbies. Like I was just always doing something. I was just to keep busy, I guess. My sisters are much older than me. So the two of them, they always were together. So the one that was in the home was my cousin. She was like 2 years younger than me, but me and her were always battling. So that wasn't like, it wasn't like I really had, I guess we played too together. So it was just creative, I was just always in my head, I guess. So, and then I always sang. I couldn't always sing, but I sang. My family used to tell me all the time, can you please be quiet? My sister was the one that sang mostly. She went to school for singing. And I was the one that because we all went to the performing arts school. Oh, wow. And like on the weekends, not like throughout the week, on the weekends. And I took dance classes. And then what happened was the manager that used to get people for the Cosby Show came to the school, and I was like, I want to be on TV, because that was the time when we all went to watch the Cosby Show, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. So I went in to audition for her, and at that time she was like, oh, you need some lessons. And that's pretty much what started my career with acting. So I was still in dance school. I was taking acting classes, and then she became my manager. So that's how I started doing TV and things like that. So I've just always been in that arena. So,
Yeah. And
I was a busybody.
You sure were and still are. But you also had the opportunity to interact or act with Eartha Kitt and Eddie Murphy. Is that correct?
Yes. So on one of the episodes, I was on New York Undercover. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh, I do.
Oh, yeah. So the episode that I was on was the one where Eartha Kitt played the principal and of a high school. And it just so happens that was also the episode where Malik Yoba went around, because I think the news crew was there. I can't remember what channel. I feel like it was Channel 5 or something like that. They were there because they were interviewing the principal on the show. And so they also did a skit for the news for New York Undercover. And so Malik Yoba went around with the mic, and he came and he asked me, he's like, do you want to be a star? And I was like, yes, and so I was on the news for that episode too. So it was pretty cool.
Wow, that is amazing.
I would say like my biggest set that I've ever worked on was the one for Tower Heist, and that's where Eddie Murphy and Ben Stiller and anyway, whoever knows that movie, I was around all of them.
Wow. So like when you're around celebrities like that, do you get starstruck, or you're just like, yeah, I belong here too? Or
no, I don't get starstruck. I've always felt comfortable in that realm because I just felt like I've always looked at them as their people and this is their job. And so I never was like, oh my God, I just never, I have to say the only person I've ever been like that around is like my favorite boy band was The Boys.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're Down My Heart. Okay. So that, oh my God. So I was in love with them. And later on in life, I worked at a hotel and I did night audit. And one of the members, Hakeem, came into the hotel and I was like, oh my God. Now, mind you, now I'm an adult now. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Hakeem. He's in the house. He's in the hotel. So I think that was the only time I like lost it, but internally lost it. I had to keep my cool, for my job. But that was the only time that I was like going crazy. But other times, no, for some reason, I always felt like that's where I belonged.
Yeah.
So we were all in the same, we worked all in the same capacity. So no, it was pretty cool though. It was surreal a little bit, like looking like, oh my God, Eddie Murphy is like across my face and Ben Stiller is staring at me, It's like, wow, that's so cool,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So kind of share, because you've done a lot of amazing things in your life, kind of share your authentic journey, how your gifts made room for you, how you got started to where you are today. I mean, you have quite a journey.
Oh, it's so crazy. Like I hate talking to myself, but I like talking about myself.
It's your time.
I'm like, how much time do you have?
I know.
So I've always found that like throughout life, I've just had the good fortune of just like meeting different people through life that kind of showed me that I'm supposed to do a little bit more in my life and that I was meant for greatness. So like I was walking through the airport and I basically, we crossed paths, me and Jesse Jackson. I was like, hello, I didn't know what else to say. And I didn't want to bother him, he was going on his way. So, he went on his way. And then there was another incident when I went to New York. I went to Ashford and Simpson's restaurant.
Oh yeah.
And I sang karaoke. She played for me. What? While I sang At Last. I was like, yes. And that particular day, Maya Angelou was there as well. She was celebrating her birthday. And I was just like, oh my God, I want to go in there. I wanted to crash the party. So I just passed by, kind of poked my head, and waved. But I was like, oh my God, who could, all these great people in the area. And then when I was in the military, I was pregnant with my second daughter. I was in the lunch area and Macy Gray was there. And so I started talking to her and she was like, yeah, I'm here because the person that was her nanny had graduated and that's what she was there for. And I was like, oh my God, just, you know, so besides being like in the industry itself, I had the opportunity to meet people just in life in
Yeah.
general. And I just always felt like I'm supposed to do more. Even when I was on the film, when I was doing the Tower Heist, the director, you know, I was like, I've always been interested in things like this. And he allowed me to sit with him behind the camera to see how it is to film and do these type of things. So it was really exciting. So it kind of ignited some
Yeah.
things with me that I went back to school. I actually went to learn nutrition. And while I was there, I ended up taking filmmaking because I was so intrigued. And so that's why I picked up some other skills. I just like learning. I just
Yeah.
like taking full advantage of life. There's so much out there to learn and to absorb, and anything in the creative field. That's, you know, that's what I'm interested in. And
Sure.
honestly, I should have went to school originally for film production. That's kind of what I love. Even like with the sound production, like I should have been like a sound engineer, I guess, too, like, because I did that before like not even having equipment. I used to take my records. Oh my God, again, I'm aging myself again. I used to take my records and I would do little mix things with my records and my audio, my cassette tape, and I would create like I would try to trick people with songs. You remember how like you could play the little records where you can play them really fast?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I did was I played it fast and recorded myself singing along with the fast version. I don't remember what I did. I played it slow and I can't remember. Anyway, on the playback, it made my voice sound younger. So I used to tell people, oh, this was me when I was younger.
Oh my God.
I was just always doing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, but along in life in general, like I said, just going to school and different things. I went initially to school for dance. When I first started, I actually wanted to do law. And it was just so boring to me that's why I switched over to doing dance. I was like, I already was dancing since I was like 7. So it made sense for me to continue with dance. And I was like, well, Mom, Dad, it's either you pay for me to fail or pay for me to pass. And so it was like, all right, well, I love dancing. I love movement. It was always a way to force me to stay in shape. And so, I never felt comfortable in the dancing space as far as like ballet and modern, because I didn't have the atypical body as everyone else. So I had to do a lot of self-talk during those times, because a lot of the dancers kind of, not all of them were nice to me. The ones who were like really serious about going into companies and things like that, because I enjoyed dancing. It wasn't a stress for me. I just did it naturally. It was just fun. And so some of the dancers didn't necessarily, I guess, respect me as a dancer, but I loved it. Every minute of it. I continued to do it through time. Dance is a universal language.
Yes, it is.
I learned that just from dealing with different people. Even when I lived overseas, it was something I can do easily and teach easily, because it was just like, just follow me, watch me and what I'm doing. Now, when it turned into like this thing where I wanted to give back and do more than just be the one behind the camera, is when I just looked at like, what am I doing with this platform? Like, it's not all about me. And how can I give back? How can I take whatever it is that I've learned and give back to the community? And that's kind of why I started my dance school, because I felt like there was nothing really that it was a small town, or borough as they call it. And it was like, I had to go outside of the town in order to learn these different techniques and things. And I was like, well, how can I get back to the kids in this area, to a community that I grew up in, that they're now pulling a lot of the arts out of. And so it was like, well, why not teach people to be like me, a triple threat or quadruple threat, to be a singer, an actor, a dancer, a choreographer. And so that's why I started the dance school. And at that moment, like, I didn't have any money. I didn't have, as they call it, 2 dimes to to rub together or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just a dream. And that was in the beginning stages of me learning about how to manifest things in life. I was one of those people who was introduced to The Secret as well, you know, and that kind of skyrocketed to learning about like the gifts that God has given us. I'm like, you know what, that's so true. Like we have been taught that we are made in his image, but some of us don't understand the full spectrum of what that means.
Yes.
And the powers that he has instilled in us to create our lives.
Yeah.
And so so as I continued learning that and channeling those things, I was able to do all these different things that are happening in my life. So I've created the environment in the life that I live at this moment that gives me the ability to dabble into a lot of these things. And I choose not to allow what's happening around me to become my reality, if that makes sense, because it could pull you down, you know? And so, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, because one, just to have that courage and that boldness, a lot of people struggle with going after their dreams and their purpose in life, but you got a hold of that and you just went full force, and you're still going full force with it. And just kudos to you. That's just amazing to have that.
Thank you.
That
I think that's
courage.
still that rebel from when I was a kid. You know, I wanted to be, I'm like, you know, look at Ma, look at me.
Exactly. And then, you gave back to the community, and it looks like you're always giving back, because I saw where you taught a twerk shop fitness group, and what was it? Wine while you whine?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
A sip and wine class. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It was just like, it just never ends. You just keep going and going. I just think that is so amazing. So
movement is life.
Yeah.
Movement is life. And, you know, a lot of it too is, as you mentioned, you know, my own battle with depression. I've dealt with it for many, many, many years from a child. And it's just something that I know if I'm not engaged and I'm not doing something, then it could easily pull me down to make me wonder, like, well, what is my purpose? But it's like, how can I ask what my purpose is if I'm not actively moving somewhere or in something?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to chime into the gifts that was given.
Yep.
And I'm just going to just put it out there. It seems crazy. It seems out there, but that's who I am. It took me a long time actually to accept that, the different aspects of me.
Sure.
Because so many people was like, oh, concentrate on one thing. Just do the one thing. And I'm like, but I'm not one thing. I've never been one thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I got a lot of gifts here.
Right. Everything comes to me full circle. It just makes sense. And this is something that I need to live. This is why I call myself the master of living, because the one good thing that I've done in my entire life is master living. Yeah. I have to try different aspects to try to figure out, to maneuver through this world. You know, I didn't make the excuse that I'm a single mom for such a long time not to be able to do stuff. I navigated through. There's times when, you know, there was ups, there was times where there was downs, but what was important is that I kept moving forward. And because I witnessed the goodness, you know, the blessings that God has brought in my life, I saw that. So I couldn't stay down for long, you know, because it was like, remember.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, let me sit back for a second. I call on my prayer sisters or whoever to kind of give me a moment. I've even had to go to the doctor sometimes, you know, like, listen, I need help, you know, and it's just that moment of being able to accept, like, this is where I am. It's not a weakness. This is just something that happens. I have to find my way of moving forward. And now I want to help other people who are feeling the same way, who are going through those moments, especially now. It's, you know, dealing with depression and mental health, all of that right now is is priority, I feel,
Yeah.
because isolation, that's not what we're supposed to, you're not supposed to have that. And I mean, unless it's intentional, you know, when we
Right.
go aside to do meditation and
Sure.
things like that, kind of to unplug and woo-saw, you know, for that
Right.
moment. But, you know, we need that interaction. So like, it's just very important to me, and to be able to be a light for other people, that they can
Yeah.
see like, wow, she's still like, you know, making crazy videos and
Mm-hmm.
still and excited and in this time right now. So, you know, maybe I should make more of an effort to just be out there and smile. And, you know, we all have a choice. We have a
Yeah,
choice
we
whether we
do.
want to be sad or we want to be
Right.
happy. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's crap in all life, you know, in
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
life. And it's just like, what do you choose to focus on? That's just really
Exactly.
what it is.
Exactly. That is so true. And one of the questions I did have for you, you know, you mentioned that you've been dealing with depression for 25 years. When did you realize that you had the onset of depression? And when did you decide to speak out about it without feeling embarrassed or ashamed? You know how most people feel, like you said, there's such a stigma on mental health and all that. So how did you begin that journey of talking about it and realizing you were dealing with it and things of that nature?
Came along with just the timing of societal conversations. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know, growing up, when you think about suicide and things like that, it was a different stigma to it. Like, nobody really talked about it. It was just
Right.
something you were going through.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I was officially like diagnosed when I was in the military, and it was after the birth of my second daughter. And it was because there was emotions that I didn't feel that I knew I should have been feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
when I explained to the doctor different things that I was experiencing, different feelings I had, like as I drove around post, things that I was, the really morbid thoughts I had, I'm like, there's no reason I should have those thoughts. And they explained to me that it was depression. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was just postpartum, but it turns out it wasn't, because I had been experiencing that already. But now putting a name to it, I was like, wow, okay. But now it became, oh my gosh, I'm weak. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
How can I tell anybody that? And no, this is just a moment. You know, there's many feelings that go with it. And then this is also something I didn't really share. I maybe have shared with like my close friends or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
even that took a while, because I never wanted to like admit to something like that.
Right.
And honestly, it just wasn't something to talk about. You
Right.
understand? So I was
Right.
like, I don't want people to think I'm sad. It
Right.
wasn't so much of being embarrassed. It's just I didn't want anyone to think I was sad, because I always wanted to spread joy. Even when I was in high school, even when I was going through things myself,
Yeah.
my biggest thing was, I'm going to smile and brighten someone else's day. They
Yeah.
don't need to know my pain. They don't need to know my struggle. If I can just smile and enlighten someone, that to me was my job, as the woman I am, or the girl that I was. And so later on, of course, I found out that doing that actually saved one of my best friend's lives. I didn't even know that. She wasn't even my best friend at that time. We became friends later, but I didn't even know that. So, and actually it makes me a little
Yeah.
emotional about
Sure.
it, but it's just, it's important to me that I get a handle on this particular, and I don't want to say sickness, it's just
Yeah.
something I'm living with.
Yeah.
So that way I can help other people be guided to find a way to get a handle on it. Now, the nutrition piece came, and I know you didn't ask me this, but I'm I'm going to bring that into the story because it's important.
Sure.
So there was a point in time when I, again, with the depression, and I gained, after my last daughter, I gained a lot of weight. It was um, my relationship had broken up. There was, I had 3 kids, and it was a very stressful situation. And so I gained an enormous amount of weight. But what's crazy is I knew I was gaining weight, but I didn't realize that I was as bad as I was until I later opened my dance school. And I was standing there teaching a ballet class in my little tutu and everything. And the little girl just looked at me in such a way that I was like, oh, you know, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I think I need to do something about that. So I was like, she was probably like, who is this enormous woman trying to teach me ballet? Which there should be nothing wrong with that.
No,
but at that time, big was not in, you know, so
exactly.
Right. And then I already had that mental thing about not being the ideal dancer body. So it was just like, oh, so I already was teaching. I think I had just started teaching Zumba anyway, for the purpose of my school. And even in teaching Zumba, I was like, that's okay. I got roles too. Just let them go, you know, be free in who you are.
Yeah.
But realizing too that it caused a health issue. And I was like, I'm my kid's only constant. And if I go, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with them. So I wanted to make sure that I was good health-wise. And so that's what got me. I hired a nutritionist, went to a trainer, which also helped me to realize that doing this made me feel better.
Okay.
So that all correlated with, okay, now this is also my fight with my emotions.
Yeah.
But, and then that's when I decided to, like, let me go back to school so I can learn about nutrition, because I didn't realize how important the two were and how little I knew. Yeah. So, fast forwarding to doing like personal training and seeing how the mind-body connection was involved when I trained my clients, how important that was. So that's a part of my training philosophy. And it wasn't until maybe, I want to say this year, but starting maybe 2 or 3 years ago, no, when 2012, 2013, I think that was my hardest bout with my depression. And that's when I had to tell my parents, because at that time I needed help, because I needed them to help me with my children.
Yes.
And so that was big.
Yeah.
Once I was able to let them know, I think it kind of slowly opened the door for me to be more vocal about it. But this year is the year that I'm really like, no, I'm owning this and I'm talking about it, and it's time to make change and really start and continue the dialogue. So you're coming to me on a time where this is like, really like the flower has opened. Yeah. I'm here, I'm telling it. But this has been a process over the last couple of years, because I had to, there was a lot of self-work I had to do. And luckily, actually moving overseas allowed me to do that, because I didn't have the same distractions that I had here in the US.
Okay.
And I had to really look at me and learn me. And because I had a lot of other things that were happening, like I, not, having an issue with being Black, having an issue with not feeling comfortable around Black women. There was so many things that I was dealing with, because I always was like, no, I'm Latina, which I am, but there was a different approach to it. Instead of not really want to identify only as Black, I had to dig into why was that? Yeah. And just like even accepting my natural hair, there were so many things that I had to go through and layers I had to peel through that would bring me to today, where I can vocally say, this is what I've dealt with, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is how I can help you along your journey as well, because I've been there, done that, and I'm continuing the process, because it doesn't end. You have to keep, it's self-work, it's work every day, you know? So I hope I answered a couple of the questions.
Quite a few, actually. So the thing of it is, I think society puts really all that stress on you by being the biased opinions, just like, you were saying you weren't the typical dancer shape. Well, now more than ever, we're proving that theory wrong. It doesn't matter the size, you're still just as excellent as a thin person or what have you. And then I don't know, I just feel like a lot of that is just put on us when we're young, and that constant negativity just coming from society has a lot to do, I think, with depression alone, you know. And so it takes strength to get through that and push through that. It's not just, it's just one little simple thing, you know, oh, I'll just take a hot bath and I'll be better. It is work, you know, it's definitely work. And I admire you for all that. That's a lot to be said, honestly. So congratulations to you. So when you were in Germany, you did some type of competing with the Highlands Games or something. What was that all about?
Okay, so I had to really look for things to be involved in because as you can see, I don't like sitting still, and you can easily sit still over there. I did have to embrace the woosah because there was a lot of time where I could just enjoy the relaxation of it because the living was more simple where I was, because I was in a more rural area. And so when there was things that I could get involved with, I was like, sign me up. And what was funny is for different events, I was usually the only chocolate one there.
Sure.
So I was always on TV because of it. So it's funny, like, so my friends that I made over there, they're always sending me videos like, oh, MsNicky, you showed up. And they'll send me a video of like, we were on TV today. So I was like, that's pretty fun. And then especially now, you know, because, you know, the Black Lives Movement is going on. So I'm sure they were looking through like, do we have any Black people on our footage?
Right.
So they're putting it all out there. No, I'm just kidding.
I can relate.
I'm kidding. But so I did CrossFit while I was out there. It was just, again, something to force me to be in shape and to do something that was not just me teaching class, and kind of just pushed me in a different way. And the CrossFit team, actually, they were like, we're going to compete in the Highland Games. We're going to start a female team. Are you interested? And I was like, of course, you know, I definitely will love that, because I love body build, like I love weightlifting. That part of it I love. Like I teach class, that's fun for me, but I love weightlifting. And so to do something like that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. You know, you only see those things on TV. So it's like, why not? You know, you only live once.
Yeah.
So it's like, when would I get another chance to do something like this?
Yes.
So yeah, I did it. They still, to this day, they asked me to come. I was supposed to do it this year. I was actually going to fly back and do it, but of course, because of COVID, we didn't.
Yeah.
But trust and believe, next year, if I have the opportunity, I will be flying back out there.
Share what that is, because I'm not sure everyone knows what that is.
So the Highland Games is something that's fun. That's what so they're like throwing like big stones and flipping logs and running with logs and there were so many different events that we did, just really to show your strength and endurance and how you work together as a team. So if you guys if you want to know more about it, because I'm really doing a poor job of talking about it, look up the Highland Games, like Highland, and you wear like a kilt. So it's pretty cool. The men and the women wear kilts, so that was pretty funny. And you know, they have the bagpipes playing, you know, to start it. It was just really, really fun. It was just a very interesting thing to be a part of. And yeah, I love my team. We were the over 40 or over 30 team. So it was like, you know, hey, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. So when did you get into bodybuilding? Like the lifting?
I had always, even in high school, I used to compete against the guys for like fitness stuff. Like I was the person that I knew how to do regular push-ups in high school. I didn't do the ones on the knees because I was like, no, I could do this too. I was really like that. I'm a woman, hear me roar type thing. And I used to compete with the guys all the time. And because I naturally had a build, I'm naturally built. So I think that's probably why I did it. And my dad had all girls. So we were, you know, like, tell me to mow the lawn and trim the hedges, I could do it, you know, no problem. Ask me to fold some clothes, then we have something, you know, then we have a problem. But that was just something natural to me. I used to lift weights with the football team. I was going to
Wow.
play on the football team, but my dad was like, listen, if you're doing acting, you want to go into your auditions with a broken leg. I was like, oh, you're right. So, so I ended up not doing it. But they always knew me as, you know, being strong. And so like, my build, I have natural broad shoulders. I get that from my grandmother. Although there was kind of like a curse to me because I was like, I always looked like I had shoulder pads on. So it was just annoying. But I learned to embrace that. And I wanted to do bodybuilding back then. I used to watch the competitions on TV. That's back when they used to play it all the time. And, but, you know, I didn't know how to find out to be a part of that. And it's probably a good thing I didn't, because I probably would have got involved in like the whole steroid thing because I didn't know better,
Sure.
you know, so I'm kind of glad I didn't, you know. But later on in life, it was like, you know, now that we have so much access to things, and it's like, it was on my list always, why not do it? So
Sure.
I tried it the first time. That's what I was going towards after, you know, my dance school, and I hired the nutritionist. I was on my way, but it seemed like when I went back to school, you know, I was in classes, I went back to being a student, things like, you know, I didn't teach class as much, and I couldn't be as involved with my weight training as I wanted to.
Sure.
And then that's where I met my husband, and then I moved to Germany, and then I discovered, you know, wine and German bread. And so like, it was a wrap. It was a wrap.
Yeah.
So I'm starting over.
Sure. That's okay.
So I'm starting over, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Like you said, and in that moment too, like I was MsNicky Fitness. So it's like, how dare I can't come back looking like this. I was really embarrassed. I struggled for a long time to even get back into like posting and like I still talked about health, but I was embarrassed really to show me, because I was like, I'm MsNicky Fatness now, you know.
No.
And it's like, these are the things that I was telling myself.
Yep.
Okay. So,
Yep.
And it took me a minute before like I had to embrace, like, listen, I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, and things happen. So what? I fell back, but now it's like, I'm getting back on my game. Life happened, emotions happen, things happen. And now guess what? I'm starting again. And to embrace that and be able to show that to other people and be like, listen, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, this is how I am. You either accept me or you don't.
Right.
End of story. So
yeah. I think as individuals, we put a lot of pressure and stress on our own self, you know, not accepting ourselves. And then once we get to that point of freedom, boy, it's such a relief, you know, once you get to that realization point. There you go. Exactly. So you also are a certified trainer in yoga, Booty. Am I saying that right? Yoga?
So I am a yoga instructor, a 200 RT yoga instructor. I also have Booty Yoga, which is BUTI yoga, yes, and Zumba and NASM, and you know. So I'm again. I did tell you I like going to school and learning. Although I hate going to school, but I like learning. You know, like I don't make any sense. I'm a true Pisces, just like.
But see, you got certified for the yoga in Italy. I mean, was there a reason why you went to Italy for that, or were you there already?
Because I was in Germany.
Okay.
I was already in Germany, and I was looking. It just made sense because actually the Booty Yoga company went out there. They had in what did they call it, in intensive or something like that, where you did it for 2 weeks, and it was just. You lived and breathed yoga, and it was in English. And that was the biggest thing. I was like, when am I going to get this chance? I don't know when I'm going back to the States, because most of the trainings were in the US, or they had some trainings in like England and things like that. So I was like, when would I get an intensive course like this that I can, you know, knock it out in 2 weeks instead of having, because usually it's over a couple of months and they do it on the weekends, you know, to help those people who are working. So I was like, when do I get another chance? And it was the most freeing and amazing experience. I I had a connection with some really wonderful women. As a matter of fact, one of the women just called me to be one of her instructors. She's doing an online dance school, and she wants me to teach because she's like, I remember, we had so much fun and doing your choreography, because I created this choreography. So it was a mix. It's a mix between Zumba and Insanity. It's called GYAO, and it stands for Get Your Up. But for those who don't curse, it's GYAO. And I did that. I debuted that in 2011 because I did Commit to Change. That Commit to Change started from a fitness movement that I started, which happened to land on November 11th, 2011. It was at Veterans Day. I didn't even know that. But yeah, so it's really intense. You can't do it for an hour. It's I think it's like more like 45 minutes. I mean, I can create some things, and sometimes I'm like, what was I thinking? Because I'll create it in my head, and then I'll do it full out, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, where was I at? But it's fun, and it really pushed you. So happy that I did go. Like I said, it was a very freeing experience for me, and it also helped release a lot of like emotions and internal things that I was battling with. I think that was kind of like the catalyst that caused me to really open more while I was in Germany and really go after who I was, because I have forgotten, when you're out of your element. And I was in this new environment. I was in a new role of wife. I had forgotten who I was. And so in that moment, it allowed me to kind of really be free. And then just doing yoga in general is really like a self-centering practice. And I feel like it really took me to a whole other level in connecting with God, like just because, you center yourself and really plug in to source, source energy. So it really just took me to a whole different place in my life. And I think it was like a catalyst to bringing me even where my spiritual journey is now. And just even accepting me physically, my body and everything like that. So it was a great thing for me to go and get certified. But I'm always taking more classes. As you said, I'm an esthetician in training. God's willing, I will graduate in a couple of weeks, October 8th. And that's something that I add to my personal training, because full body makeovers, to make somebody feel amazing through their makeover, because one part of even losing weight is relearning and loving the new you, and or the new physical you, because technically you're still you, but you don't look the same, in your mind. So sometimes that's the battle in itself. So a part of, the mental work that I do with my clients, the physical work, something like, hey, I can add that to, if they wanted to do it, like, just to feel good, doing a facial, or like you said, I do body sculpting. So I help with even to break down the fats and, the whole shebang.
Wow. That's just like, how do you even have time for all that?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's something I'm learning too, is time management. So like I have a particular day that I do my podcasting. I'm gonna have a particular day where I do, my personal work on the side, the same, doing speaking gigs and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So you had mentioned too in one of your posts that you have a love-hate relationship with your scale. Do you still have that? Because I do too.
Yes, of course. People put too much onus or put too much into the scale. The scale can have one number, but it doesn't reflect what you look like physically. Because when you're going through the body health workout journey, your scale's going to give you some different numbers, and it means different things. So if you're heavy, and I actually just had this conversation with my son, if you're starting out working out and you're doing weights and you're doing things like that, not just cardio, but if you're doing weights, you're going to see the scale rise. And so if you are a person that is like, you get emotional about the scale, I say stay away from the scale. Get your initial weight and then stay away from it. You know, give yourself a time and you know, to say, okay, I'm going to do a check-in, but don't check in every 30 minutes, every 6 hours, every day, because you're going to go crazy, because it's going to fluctuate. Because as you build muscle, you are going to get heavy. Not because muscle weighs more than fat.
Yeah.
That's a myth. That's not correct. 5 pounds is 5 pounds. There's no way that that can be. What happens is muscle takes up less space. So that's what gives you the curves and makes you look smaller. But if it's 5 pounds of muscle, it's still 5 pounds. If you're looking at fat, obviously it takes up more space, and so it makes you look bigger. But it's the same thing. So what happens as you are gaining muscle, right? So you're here, like say your fat level's here and you're starting to gain muscle, and then you're going to be on the same level. As you begin to continue gaining muscle, that muscle is going to start eating and breaking down the fat. So you're going to see the change this way. And this is when you see this here, that's when you start seeing this. You know? And so you're replacing the fat with muscle. So that's the difference. And if you have to give it time for that process to happen. And a lot of people give up because they're seeing themselves either get heavy or they're not seeing the progress long term. Like, you got to remember, like, when you got to this point, it didn't happen overnight. It was time. So you can't expect that you're going to be skinny or you're going to be at a different point in your life, in your body journey quickly. And I think that's sadly one of the things that that hurts me, that so many people will strive to do other things or quick fixes, but they haven't really got to the root of the issue, which is really learning how to properly eat. And it's not even that hard. I think the problem is we have been so conditioned to the quick fix. What can I get to quicker? What's easier to make? Because I don't have time. But we are in control of our time because we make our schedules. So if you actually take the time to, okay, like, this is what I'm going to make, or this is what I'm going to do, or I'm going to learn to make, or this is what I'm going to do, you, one, will save money. And then you also will feel better and you'll live better. Like, if people just actually took the time to take care of self, that's hence why the Self-Lift Network. Plug. Okay. If they really took time to take care of self, they would be surprised at how different their life will be, because it takes away the mental fog. When you're not eating junk, it takes away the mental fog. It takes away being extremely tired all the time. I'm not a fan of coffee, even though I've drank coffee, but I know what it does to your body. So I do my best not to even indulge in it. But so many people think I need coffee to stay awake. No, right now you do, because that's what you trained your body on. But what it's actually doing is making you tired, and it's causing stress on your body, and it's causing you also to gain weight, because it's overworking your adrenal glands when you're in fight or flight mode all the time. So of course that's why you're exhausted, and then you're like, I need another hit, of course, because you've been running, as far as your body's concerned, you've been running from a lion all day.
That is so true. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. I've always been chunky, and now I consider myself thicker than a snigger, but I've just embraced who I am now. That's all I can say.
Well, see, and I'm glad you said that, because it's not just about, because I think people are also, they're not educated enough to understand it's not about even the size, because some of us are meant to be bigger than others. It's really about your health. Like, how are you internally? Because you think about it, there's skinny people that their insides are jacked up. They are not healthy at all. So it's not really about the size. It's really about your lifestyle and what you're doing, what you're doing on day to day. So
but I still need to break that habit of that skill, because I'm working on it. I really need to, because I'm obsessed with getting on it every morning. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it once a week, and then that'll work for a little bit, and then I'm back on it every day. And that just is torment. It's literally torment. So I've got to get past that.
So let me ask you a question. What are you really expecting to see when you get on your scale every day?
Less pounds. That's what I expect.
But how much?
Well, of course, I would love to see 5 pounds, but that's not going to happen.
In one day?
I know. I know. I'm quick fix, but no, at least a pound or 2 is what I'm expecting. And especially if I'm really working hard at it. And, the body fluctuates, like you said, so much. It could be two fluids, and things. It's a torment. Because I feel good, and I know when I'm not doing good too, but I just need to throw it out.
Well, my thing is, first of all, you're absolutely beautiful woman, and
thank you.
You just have to. I think you should, if you feel like you need to look at your scale, maybe you could just take it out and say hello. And you say, I'm not going to get on you today. I'm just going to say hi, because apparently I just need to say hi to you today.
I love it.
And just say hi. Take it out if you have it. Like, you shouldn't be out. Put your scale away, so that way it takes effort to bring it out.
Yes, that's a great idea.
And if you go through that effort to bring it out, if you know that you just did this yesterday, just say, I just wanted to say good morning.
I love it.
Give it a hug, and then put it back.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, because when you know what that's going to do, what it's going to do to you mentally, you don't want to get on there. Like, you want to avoid anything that's going to trigger you at any cost. This is why I said, I try not to watch the news if I can help it, because it's a trigger.
Yeah.
And if you know that emotionally, this is going to trigger, why would you do that? Don't put yourself through that torture.
Right.
So, let it go.
Yes. I'm just going to, I know just the place to put it. That way I'm not going to want to bend over and get it every morning. So that's a great suggestion. So I'm going to give it a try. So you mentioned Self-Lift Network. Share a little bit about that and how you came up with the name as well.
So it was a play on the whole selfie thing. And it was that song, it's time to take a selfie, or whatever that song is.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was like, no, we have to bring back control of who we believe we are to us. Yes. I think too many people have wanted the external gratification from people who are trying to live life just like us.
Right.
They don't know any difference. They are going from their experience, from their whatever they've learned in life, and they're judging from that. And judging is what it is. Yeah. And it's their opinion, which means nothing. Something that I tell my daughters, and I try to teach them that from very young, is the only thing that matters is what you think about yourself.
Yeah.
Unless your mother tells you, because your mother knows everything. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. Mama knows best.
Yes. But no, it's because when you look at the selfie, like I said, people take 1,000 selfies just to get the right one so people can like it. No, it's no, it's time to self-lift, because then when you start lifting yourself, you're not worried about what other people think about you, because you know who you are, you know your truth, and you can stand in it. Yeah. And so the whole process of the Self-Lift Network was really meant for a place where they can learn to live consciously, to stand in the truth, to learn different tactics of self-care, mentally, personally, and emotionally, just spiritually. Yeah. And then it's evolved and it's evolving. I'm actually shifting gears at the moment too with it, but it's really there's that part of lifting yourself, and then fiscally lifting yourself, because since I have a master's in business, it's like, and I've owned different businesses, it's like, well, why not me teach that part of it too? So it was like, those people who want to become entrepreneurs, who want to learn, to step out of the box and do these things and not allow their circumstance to be their guide. Because, like I said, when I first opened my business, a brick and mortar, not like network marketing, because I had done network marketing prior to, like Mary Kay, and Tupperware. Yes, I was a Tupperware lady too. But when I did the brick and mortar, that's a whole different ball game. And so I didn't have the capital to do that. I didn't have the credit to go get a loan. They denied me. And so I had to find a way to make it work and make it happen. And I did. And I had a staff, who would think someone who didn't have money or anything was able to do it. I wrote it down. They always say, write it down so, the universe can work things out, which they did. I met with the mayor in November of 2009. And by that next April of 2010, I was open. And I had a staff, and they were volunteers because they believed in the vision.
Yeah.
And by that our first registration was very small, and it didn't deter me, because I understood it was the middle of the year. It was just a matter of us like getting our name out. But the next time we had our registration, we had like tripled our enrollment. So for me, it was like, I was just like, oh my goodness, I even was in awe. And so just to be able to take the mental journey through that, and then the work that it takes just to build a team and to be able to make it where you can make something out of nothing, I wanted to give back. Again, this was another way of me giving back. I don't want to die with my music still in me. And so it's like, I had to reach different places to figure out how to run a business. I was going to different workshops. I was doing that, but it's like, let me help you do it since I've already done it. Just go through, you come to one place and get that done. And so, so there's that aspect of it. The whole thing about is empowerment. So of course, I have the podcast. That's a part of the Self-Love Network. And so this kind of now brings it over to others. It's like, okay, now I want to uplift other entrepreneurs who are doing it, who have made that choice, who have made that commitment. Because now I brought back commitment to change. Mind you, it started as the fitness movement. Yeah. And I didn't tell you, it ended up being a web series that I shifted into where I was talking about people who stepped out of the box and changed their life. They committed their lives to their change. And then when I went overseas, I had no choice but to make it an online venture, which ended up being the podcast. And so this is where like now I'm really spending a lot of time into this, because I want to give a chance for other entrepreneurs who may think like, oh, I'm not, I'm doing things, but why would I be on a podcast? Or, or who am I to say a story or something like that, just to give them a voice to say, listen, what you're doing is important. Let me be a person to give you a platform to talk about what you're doing and spread your vision, share your mission, so that way other audience members can see it, or you can get out. And so that kind of creates that network, because other people who have been on my show, they get to listen to other people that are going to be on the show. And so now they're like, oh, I can connect with this person, or I can do this thing with this person. And then I'm creating a network with all these people. Yes. So that way later on, when I'm doing something like if I'm going to create a summit or something online, I know I can pick from these people because I know what they're about. I know what they're doing. And it takes their business and their exposure and their content to a whole other level. Yes. So this is just another way, again, like me giving back. I enjoy it. I love it. I did it volunteer. Now I'm looking for sponsors.
Me too.
Right. So to take it to the financial aspect, because it's time, because now I'm taking it to where I'm going to do all of this full time. I was doing it part time, but now I'm really digging deep into all of this, because I really feel it's necessary and it's important to live consciously. I think too many people are just kind of like being in that robot mode, and they're following what they see or what they hear, and they're not really digging deep into like, wait, first, let's, take a pause, step back. Who are you and how do you want to show up in this world? And I feel like even with the COVID right now, people are getting that opportunity, I don't know if they're taking it, but it's a real chance for reflection.
Yes.
And really a chance of do-over. First of all, you can't look at, oh, I want to get things back to normal. That's over with. You have to know, like, okay, what is going to happen from today moving forward, and who do I want to be, and who do I want to show up as? And this is the time to really kind of shape, mold and become who you're meant to be. And that's something that was very important to me. So
yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, when I met you, I think when we first talked, I felt like our paths are somewhat similar, because that's what I want to do, is have a platform because there's just so many great talent and amazing people like yourself out there. And I just want them to be able to share their story and encourage others, to take that leap of faith. And maybe by telling your story, you can help educate, and it might resonate with them to be that bold, to take that leap. So yeah, I just think that's just beautiful, honestly. It's a great way of empowering others. So that's right. I saw one of your posts that says, "Girl boss building my empire." What does that mean to you?
You know how, like, everyone like, oh, you're a queen, just like you have your shirt, you're a queen. So I've always been like, no, I'm an empress. I'm ruling all. I'm above that. I'm an empress, but
I love it.
The whole idea of building an empire, I think that just came with the idea that Empire was on TV. And people always say, people say that saying of building an empire. And it's because I want to go past the idea of I'm building a community, I'm building a village, I'm building a city. No, I'm building an empire of, people who are just trying to reach their ultimate goals and to allow their visions to come into fruition, and not just about me. I'm hoping that my kids see how I live, and I'm an example to them, so let them know that the possibilities are endless, especially as Black and brown women and men, that we have the opportunity to create our lives despite what is going on and succeed. But it's in our hands. We have to also take initiative to do the things that are necessary for us to do to excel to that next level. And so, I'm not a person that I can't do the 9 to 5. I've just always felt like I needed to do more. Even when I was young, before I even entered the workforce, I knew that I was not going to be a person to live a 9 to 5. There was something about it that wasn't appealing to me. Sure. And so I've always struggled. Even I've had a lot of 9 to 5s. Let me just tell you, I've experienced a lot of things because I was also testing the waters. Let me see what I'm interested in. Right. And then a lot of times I would do things as a means to bring income because I know I had responsibilities, but I always had something here that was working. It was to fuel what was happening here. And so my family, of course, for them, that's the way you're supposed to live. That's fine. And it took me a long time to be like, as a matter of fact, it took me almost all my life, because it wasn't even till this year that I was like, okay, I'm going to stand in my truth. I'm not going to keep going after this 9 to 5 when I know I'm miserable in it. Right. When I get a job, I remember, like, when I opened my dance school, like when I had the idea of having a dance school, my mom was like, what's your plan B? And I was like, no, I don't need a plan B. I already knew what I was doing. So to appease her, I went and applied for a job. And let me tell you, I was late for the interview. I basically went in there like, y'all need me, I don't need you, because I wasn't trying to get the job. Yeah. And I got the job.
Go figure.
Go figure. When I try, they don't take me. Right. But when I don't try, I get it. And so the first thing in my mind was like I didn't even remember what I was interviewing for. Let me just tell you, that's how much it was, because I had applied for a couple of jobs. And so when they called me, I was like, yeah, sure. Because they called me a little later down. I'll come in for an interview. So I didn't even know what I was interviewing for. But anyway, When they told me I was hired, I was like, okay, so I did it. I got the job. Great. Let me see when I can quit. That's what I had in back in my mind. It's like, I wonder how long I'm going to stay there so I can quit. Horrible. Do not follow this if this is not your path. But for me, it wasn't my path. Luckily, it was actually a temporary job. So it was only for a couple of months. So when my time was up, they wanted me to extend and I gracefully bowed out. And that's when I was able to, you know, do my company. But I've just never, it's just never something that doing, having the same, doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
That to me is torturous. Some people can do that because it's comforting to have that type of consistency. But for me, I need a different experience. I need to be involved with people's lives. I mean, I taught in school. So of course, dealing with teachers and students, you're going to have a different experience. But just the mere fact that I was forced to be in that building from this time to that time, it was torturous to me. I don't know. I really don't know what that is about, but I just know there's something about like the freedom of things. Even as in the military, you know, I'm fighting for other people's freedoms, but I'm not really free. You know, I went from living with my mom and dad to living with Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam was just as strict, you know? And so, so I've just always had that. I guess the rebel was from, you know, just instilled in my blood, I guess, because everything I've done was rebel-like. Or different, you know, outside the box.
Well, it's great to have that because it definitely has pushed you beyond measure, you know, to accomplish all that you have. So that's awesome. What value, and you kind of touched on it, do you want to instill in your children?
To not stop, to keep going. I mean, they've seen their, I mean, they are my why. They are why I continue to try and to do more, to be in, you know, just to be an example of that. Like I said, you can create your own future. You can create your world. And it's really about where your mindset is and what actions you're taking daily, how you're working to increase your value. That's something I heard from Jim Rohn, is about your value. You know, he's like, your value is also like your library. So I've always had books. Something that my dad used to tell me, and I used to be like, yeah, whatever, Dad. And then finally I was like, oh my God, he's so right. I gotta get books. You know, it was just so engaging, and you learn so much, and your world is just open to so much when you're able to kind of pick the brains of other experts who've been there before you and who've made the path for you. And it just makes sense. And so if I can instill that same thing with them, just like, you know, continue to work on being the best of you and utilize your gifts to the full capacity of what God has given to you. And, you know, show your light, show his light through you in the things that you do. So that's the biggest thing, that I just want to be an example and hope that when I leave this world that they're good, you know, and I think that's what a lot of parents, you know, may wish on their kids.
That's awesome. Who is your biggest inspiration to you?
Because there's so many people that I look that I'm inspired by and that motivate me. And that I'm like, man, I want to do a little bit more than, as that person. I want to do like that person. I want to show up like that person. So it's hard to like pinpoint one person. I would say like one of my biggest, I could point out like the one person that I think took me to that a level of like, I want to speak, because she kind of reminded me of myself in the sense of that time when I was just a single mother with my son, is Lisa Nichols. And just seeing her journey, like from The Secret and then moving forward, and just how empowering her speaking is. And I'm like, oh man, I want to be able to touch people like that, and change people and cause them to desire and want more and actually go after it. And so if I were to choose one person, I think right now it would be Lisa Nichols. Obviously Oprah is always on the list of things, and not just because of her money, although her money is nice.
Right.
But but I think it's also being able to understand people and being able to speak with people and being enlightened and giving them a platform. And I think that's where I can kind of see like the Oprah side is, you know, she gave people a platform to share and to learn. So, and then of course, Ayanna, and that's just because the tough side, like, let's go get it together. And I think that part, like, that goes for my military background. My dad was military. I'm a military brat. That's like, listen, no excuses. There's no crying in baseball. Let's get it going. You know, that whole idea. She's on it, and she has a lot of knowledge. And I just feel like there's no one coming up after these women. I haven't seen anyone that really could step in, not in the same shoes, but kind of step in the realm or in the same alignment. So I'm like, I want to be in that line. Now, granted, I'm not that much younger than them, but at least, you know, I can be one generation behind, you know, and try to be that type of example and that person to speak and share the same message. So it's just about molding and keeping going. I'm learning and I'm just going where the signs take me. You know, when Moses was told to lead the people, he wasn't like, oh, who can I watch so I can learn from? He just took that, he had to take the staff and go, and he learned as he went along. And so I look at it like, you know, the same way.
Yeah, that's cool. What has been one of the greatest moments for you along your journey?
So that's another thing. There's so many, obviously, having the blessing of being a mom, you know, and not a mom of one, but a mom of three. They drive me nuts, but like I said, they keep me going. Oh man, there's so many sections of life that I can look into that I'm grateful for. Just like it's so weird. Like, you know, for me, I'm not that old, but I've experienced so much. So there's different segments of time that I'm like, wow, I got a chance to experience that. I guess, I mean, the fact that I got to live overseas, that was on my list, on my dream board. I always wanted to have my kids travel to Europe. I never thought I'd be living there, you know? And so I got the best of both worlds. The opportunity to be on TV or work in TV, to be around celebrities, that was something big for me. Even though, I'm not a big star, but I still got to work in the industry, and I met a lot of really great people. So that I'm still friends with today. So I'm grateful for that. The opportunity to learn. The opportunity to live in different parts of the US, and like I told you, overseas, so I can experience how different people live, really interact and see, kind of get into the minds and really integrate with different communities. I think I'm grateful for that. Man, there's, like I said, there's so many that it's really hard to pinpoint. I'm just grateful for every experience. I think my biggest thing that I would say is just, again, still being alive today, still being able to push forward. Cause I know there's many times where if I would have proceeded for where I was, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have been able to make the steps or take the steps that I am doing today because, of a moment of weakness or a moment of being in the dark. So I'm grateful. My greatest accomplishment is living.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What do you want to be remembered by or known for on this earth?
Being a motivator, like being an inspiration, making people smile, giving people the thing is giving people the permission to live fully in life and to take advantage of what life has to offer. And so I think like just being a motivator and an inspiration, and someone that they know like just doesn't stop. And I've had a couple of like older people say that to me too, like that I didn't even know were watching, kind of like, the mothers. And they're like, well, she just keeps going. She doesn't give up. And that's one thing that they admired. But to me, it just made sense. I did a documentary back in 2012, I think, as for Rutgers University, being a veteran going back to school. And in that they asked, how do you do it as a mom, a single mom? And it's kind of like, how do I not do it? It's not something that I think about. It's just something that I do. It's just a part of my life. My son came along and it was just like, okay, I have a son and I know what I need to do. I'm not going to say my son is going to stop me from living life. He's just going to be a great addition to it. And I'm going to teach him how to live life as well. Now, of course, I'm just like any other person that I'm learning how to be an adult. I'm learning how to navigate life just like the next. So who's to say what is right and what's wrong? Yeah. And, I just kept moving forward that way. So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's empowerment, because I feel like, I want to just be able to enhance or touch someone's life too. And I just feel like if I can just touch one person's life, I always say mic drop, my job is done. And if I can continue touching someone's life, that's my whole purpose. Yeah.
And you got to keep doing that, because like I look at people like I mentioned Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson, those people like that. Yeah. Those are people who are gifted to do those things. And I know like, okay, that might not be my calling, but I can make a difference. And like you said, one person at a time, that whole idea of paying it forward. So like you may touch somebody's life that now they're going to go touch someone else's life. And then it passes on and it becomes this big chain link fence, that we're all changing lives, just changing lives, and everybody, making their mark in this world by doing stuff like that. So that's what I look at, and the same for you, and you're doing it too. Like even like giving me a chance to be on the other end, putting me in the hot seat.
That's right. I love it. Yeah, you're doing so well.
Oh, thank you.
What is the best piece of advice that you can give someone who is trying to fulfill their dream or purpose in life?
I would say to live consciously. I think too many of us are just going with the flow. There's a way to do it consciously, and to live in your truth. A lot of us also are living other people's truths. For a long time, I was living the truth of my parents. I was living the truth of other people around me. And I wasn't standing in my own truth. And I did a talk last year about, superheroes and how we put on this facade of like they're in their Clark Kent outfits because they can't live in their truth. They're being what society feels that they should be instead of being who they are, because they won't necessarily be accepted by who they are. But in reality, that's where they excel the most. And so I feel like that's the same thing, just, living in your truth and owning it. And that's what I would say to anybody who in life in general. And I feel like everything else comes from that. When you can really stand in your truth and you can live consciously and make decisions consciously towards the goals or whatever it is that you're trying to do in life, you would see like your whole life experience change, and it will feel more fulfilled.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. And it's okay to be different. That's where our greatness comes from.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. And where can people follow you at?
Woo! Okay, so you can go to my website, selfliftnetwork.com. I'm currently for Instagram, it's MsNicky Fitness, MsNicky Fitness. That will be shifted also to an Instagram for Self Lift Network that's in process. And FYI, it's MsNicky because that is actually an acronym. So I'll just tell you what the Okay, so MsNicky is an acronym. That's why I have it there. Although my name is Nicole and people call me Nikki, I intentionally spelled it that way because it means something. So M is for motivation. S is for support or strength. N is for nutrition. I is for inspiration. C is for community or commitment. Can mean both. K is for knowledge. And Y is for you, because without you, there's no me.
Oh, that is wonderful. I love that. Oh, that is way too cool.
Yes, I'm Okay, so the other place to find me, if you want to know about the podcast, it's also on the Self-Lift Network, but we do have an Instagram page. It's Commit to Change, and that's commit with the number 2 change podcast on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, MsNicky, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. MJ, you're the best. I just love all of Emjae and what's happening with you here. That whole
thank you so much. I appreciate you. Well, that's a wrap with Make Room with MJ.